All right, we got two people here already. Thank you for being here. Everyone who comes in, please hit the like. I'm going to make an announcement over on my original channel, which is my biggest channel. And then I'm going to show the first intro, the first live stream intro ever on this channel. And then I'm going to invite my guest up and we're going to get this discussion going. So give me a second here and let me make the announcement over on my original channel. Close that. Okay, that's muted. Good. Just give me a second here. All right, guys. I just made the announcement. Hey, maybe BGS will make the announcement in his vast platform as well. And I will see you guys on the other side of this intro. Give me 1 second. Yeah, I'll see you guys on the other side of this intro. If you're new coming in, please hit the like button. See you soon. All right, everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Dr. Anwar Youssef Dunbar, and this is Big Discussions 76, Science and Technology. That's the first intro I made for a live stream on this channel, so you guys witnessed history. So if you like that, let me know. I was out walking earlier, and I said, you know what? I just did one for my Michigan football live stream last night. I can do one for the science stream tonight as well. So expect to see more of that, and expect to see more of those evolve. Let's see. I want to bring my guest up. Before I do, I'm streaming over to Facebook tonight. I'm simulcasting. I I've been a little more cautious about streaming over to Facebook, and I've tried to be a little more cognizant and a little more choosy of doing that because, well, depending upon the topic and the subject matter, it might not go well over there, if you know what I mean. But this is a science topic, this is an educational topic, and I thought that um, multiple audiences could benefit from this. And also, I'm trying to grow this channel. It's thanks to Ron Wills, it surpassed 1,000 subscribers last month, but I need to get the watch hours up to be able to monetize the channel and also to have a super chat. If you look at the chat over on the Facebook, I'm sorry, over on the YouTube side, I don't have a super chat, and I need 4,000 hours. So if you're watching over on the Facebook side and you enjoy this, consider subscribing to the YouTube channel and taking a look at the content that I have over there. So um, tonight, give me 1 second here, guys. I don't always have all of my pictures queued up, unfortunately. This picture was actually in the intro that I just ran at the beginning of the show. This is the STEM acronym. I think that they're putting an A in here now for STEAM to incorporate art, but I really want to turn this channel into a quote unquote a STEM hub. So my backgrounds are in pharmacology and toxicology, but that's just one letter in the acronym. So there are other aspects of it. So I want to invite other scientists and experts onto the channel, and I'm doing that tonight. And if you're watching this and you have a um, an expertise in an area and you'd like to come on and talk about it, um, reach out to me. I can be contacted. Um, the email address for my YouTube content is actually right here. Big Discuss 76 at bigwordsarepowerful.com. I know that's a mouthful, um, but that's where you can. Let me show that again. I flashed it up there really, really quickly. There it is. Big Discuss 76 at bigwordsarepowerful.com. I'm going to have a Twitter handle there and an Instagram handle there. But if you're a scientist or a STEM practitioner and you want to participate in something like this, then please reach out to me because I'd love to have you and talk more science and learn some stuff. So, guys, I'm going to be, if you want to donate to the channel, that information is below. I'm going to be throwing my Cash App and my PayPal in the chat as well in case you want to throw something in the collection plate. Um, I'm going to invite my guest up now, Keep It Techie. I saw him on his channel maybe a month or 2 months ago, and I said, okay, I have to get him over on my channel. I have my notepad and my pen here. I'm going to be taking notes because I am not from the tech sector. So I'm going to bring Keep It Techie up and I have some questions for him. If you have questions, leave those in the chat and I'll be leaving my, again, my Cash App and my PayPal there as well because I don't have a super chat. So I'm going to bring Keep It Techie up. How's it going, Keep It Techie?
How you doing, Dr. Dunbar? And I appreciate you, bringing me on your channel so we can have this conversation. I definitely appreciate it.
Okay, well, I appreciate you coming and your willingness to talk about what you know and how you got that skill set and where you see your field going.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cool.
okay. Well, let's see my questions. So, first of all, do you want to talk about your platform and how you started it and what it's all about, because I'm sure you probably talk about these things all the time. So
Hmm. Yeah. So, hello guys. I know most of you guys in the chat. Shout out to all you guys that came through for this live stream. But I'm Josh for Keep It Techie. I mean, from Keep It Techie. For all the people that don't know, and I've been on YouTube since around 2016. And I was trying to figure out what I wanted to bring to the space, or the black space of YouTube. And I've been working in the tech field for a number of years at that point. It was close to about 9 years or so. I was working in the field. And so I wanted to see of a way to help people actually get into the IT field, because I was always frequenting other chats here on Black YouTube, so to speak, and speaking to people, and always like trying to mentor people as best I could, as much as you can from the chat, within the space. And so I thought about it. I was like, this is something, Linux is something that I'm interested in. And those are the other videos that I watched. When I wasn't watching stuff over here, I would watch a whole bunch of Linux videos, because it was something that I was interested in learning, around outside of my job. And like I said, I've been working in the IT field. I've worked in multiple positions. I've worked as a network administrator, a systems administrator, and analyst, database analyst. I'm currently working as a database administrator on a Navy contract. So that's currently what I do now. And so I was like, well, in all the positions that I've worked in, all these vast positions, a lot of times I'm the only one in the room that looks like me. You know what I'm saying? And so I said, well, I need to do something about this as best as I can, and try to, bring this to uh, places where a lot of black people congregate, which is black YouTube. And I always liked O'Shea, his channel and stuff. And so I was always around a lot of those conversations that they would have, and he would always bring up and say, we need more professionals to start channels. We need more people in business to start YouTube channels. So I said, well, let me just talk about Linux, since I'm trying to learn it, and kind of document my I guess journey through the process of learning Linux. And so I've learned a lot over the years, and so I've just been putting that information out there for anyone that's interested in learning the Linux operating system. And then also more recently on my channel, um, I've always heard, like, on a lot of different panels, I've always heard, a lot of people that are not actually in the IT field, and they've never worked in the IT field, or uh, probably not as successful. And it's no shade at anybody, but I just wanted to start bringing in people that are highly successful in the field, because I'm not the only one. And especially since I started coming like Twitter, and coming into this space, I started meeting a lot more people that were highly successful, that looks like me, you know what I'm saying? And so I was like, well, I should start interviewing these people and bring them to the space, just to show younger kids that grew up where I grew up, all that, um just to show them that there are a lot of us in this field. And and so the interview, that's how the whole interview process, or the whole interview side of my channel actually came about, just to put other people out in the forefront, because I know I'm not the only one. I'm not trying to be, king tech, guy on YouTube, especially in the black sector. You know what I'm saying? I just want to show the other people that don't have a voice, that are excelling in this field and very successful in this field, and just put them out there, especially since I have a pretty, I mean, a small, it's still a small channel, but a decent platform. So I hope that
Okay.
answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, that's important here in the DMV, because I'm in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia. I would, before the pandemic, I would go out and try to do as many career days as I could.
Hmm.
And here in the DMV, surprisingly, with all these white collar professionals, they tell me you're the first Black scientist that we've ever met. So
Yeah.
that kind of agrees with what you just said. And I was just talking to my cousin. Another aspect is a lot of young people, they say they want to get into IT, they want to get into computer programming, but they don't know what all it all entails.
Hmm.
So I was telling her about that when I saw her, because that's what she wants to get into. Okay, just briefly, which region of the country you from? You from one of the inner cities? You from the south? Uh,
I'm actually from the South. I'm from Baton Rouge. I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
okay,
2-parent household. I got an older sister, and it's just a good old Southern family, so to speak. And I come from a family where they believe in traditional marriage and all that stuff, and Christian, you know, and I just been trying to follow that same path as my parents. You know what I'm saying? And my grandparents and my
okay,
uncles and aunts and all of them. So
okay. So you're a Cajun. Um,
yeah. Yeah.
so so on that same vein, talk about your education story. Did you have an aptitude for something like mathematics early, or did you? Well, you tell us.
Okay. So I joined it. First off, let me just start with this. I joined the military because to be honest, when I was in high school, I didn't do as good as I could have. And just looking back on it, I know I could have did a whole lot better, but I didn't do as good as I didn't like standardized tests. It was difficult for me, but I was pretty decent in math, like geometry, algebra. I understood it. I understood how to, you know, um, just work out math problems, and I think that stems from a lot of the hands-on things that I used to do. I One of my first jobs was actually working. I worked for Ace Hardware, and so, I measuring, pipe, measuring glass. Just doing a whole bunch of different things, cutting glass, and it's manual, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know, it's just the math. I don't know, it just came easy, you know what I'm saying? But I didn't put much effort in school as I should have, if that makes sense. And then, so I joined the army. I didn't have the high enough scores on the ACT at the time to go to college, so I just joined the army and went through that whole thing. I joined the reserves, so in order for me to pretty much go back home, but then I deployed when I got back home, and then once I got back from deployment, because I went to Kuwait, and during that time period when I got back home, I was trying to figure out what to do. I didn't know what direction to go. You know what I'm saying? I knew I didn't want to do military full time. That's why I joined the reserve. So I would only have to go in, 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks over the summer or whatever. But I knew I wanted to go to school. So a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I'm going to Remington College," and it was one of those small tech schools or whatever that you can go to, kind of like ITT Tech or whatever. And so they offered an associate's program, and my plan was to just go on and go through this associate's program and try to transfer over to university. Well, that didn't happen because When you walk into one of those places like Remington College or ITT Tech or whatever, I don't know specifically ITT Tech, but I know Remington. It was almost like walking on a car dealership. They basically trying to get
Wow.
you to sign up for it and get your money. You know what I'm saying? And I spent more at that school than I would have spent just going to a community college, which I should have did. But
Wow.
yeah, it's my fault. I didn't have the level on the ACT to actually get in. They was going to basically start me in high school classes. You know what I'm saying? So some high school math, English, and all that stuff I was gonna have to retake in order before I actually started the program. And so once I got into Remington, they started me right into the program. They let me take another test. I scored pretty good on that, and so I got into the program and went through the full program. Got an associate's degree from it in computer networking, and that's where I was introduced into computers. And I knew that I knew a little bit about computers before that. I had to do a lot in the military with computers, but uh, my parents, I remember when they first got their computer, you know what I'm saying? It was one computer we all shared. You know, I would get on there and just mess around on it. I think it had Windows 98 or something on there, or 95. And so I would play around with it and just tinker around with it. And that's I guess one of my things that I like to tinker around with things. So I think that's how the whole computer, schooling, that was one of the reasons I got interested in it, so to speak. And so got that degree. And so after that, like I said, I wanted to transfer to another university and try to go for a bachelor's degree. Well, come to find out, the school that I went to, and that's my fault. I should have did more research on it. But like I said, I was 19 years old, didn't know what I was really getting myself into. The course or the I was basically gonna have to start over because it wasn't fully accredited. You know what I'm saying? Or it was accredited, but it just wasn't transferable to a normal university, the associate's degree. So I did a lot of research and found an online school. And so I went to American Intercontinental University online. And that's where I received my bachelor's degree. I got my bachelor's degree. I went through all the courses for that. And it was one of those, speedy courses. And then one thing about it also, I forgot to say, uh, I I got another associate's degree over there because before I started the bachelor program, they told me I had to take about 9 different classes. Well, the other classes were going to be generic. You know how when they look at the transcripts and if it's missing one word for that class, they'll say, "Oh, well, we can't accept this class." You know what I'm saying? Even though it covered everything. You know what I'm saying? But so they told me, the advisor actually told me that I could take these 9 classes right here, and they're all generic, English, math, all that stuff. Or you could take these other 9 classes that deal with business, and you can get a business associate's degree. So I said, hey, let me just go down and do that. So I went through those 9 classes, got another associate's degree in business administration. Then I continued and got my bachelor's degree in information technology. So that's pretty much my educational story as far as like all the schooling that I've went to. Oh, but let me add this as well. But when you get into the IT field, this is something you'll find out once you actually start getting into it. This is all the STEM fields. Once you get into it, you have to continue learning. You can't stop. You can't just, get your degree or whatever and just stop and everything is going to be great. You have to continue learning. And that's one thing I found out about uh, as far as certifications go. Because when I first got into the field, the degree, was kind of heavy as something that would get you hired. Nowadays, certifications are way more important when getting jobs in the tech field. You need to, push and get those certifications. So that requires you to constantly learn. School, didn't finish for me when I got my bachelor's degree. And I just want to reiterate that, what I'm saying? You have to keep learning to be successful.
Okay. All right. So I have, well, a couple of points and then a question about what you just said. I did a stream over the summertime with another gentleman about schools like what was it called? ITT Tech?
Yeah,
Sure.
ICT Tech,
Okay.
Remington. Yeah.
And he provided evidence that those are for profit
Yeah.
um, entities.
Hmm.
So in other words, they don't necessarily have the student's best interest at heart all the time. So it's
Nope.
interesting that you stated that, or you shared that. Um, let's see. And
And
the
I would
other,
never recommend that school.
okay,
Yeah, just to add on to what you're saying. Yeah, that's one of those schools. I mean, I would recommend people just go through it. Like if you were in my situation where you didn't do good on do have good scores on the tests, or you just didn't have the good enough grades to get into a university, just go to your community college and take whatever courses that they recommend you take in order to get into the program that you're trying to get into. So I just wanted to add that.
okay. I want to thank Raheem Gaines for the Cash App. If anyone else wants to donate, that information is still right there in the comment in the chat. So, can you talk just briefly? I mean, you don't have to go class by class by class, but for computer, what was your major? Your bachelor's in
Information technology.
information technology. Can you talk about what that encompasses and some of the courses you had to take?
Okay, so it started out with a lot of information technology theory and data uh theory as well, like understanding how to work with big data. That was one of the courses that I had to take. So some database classes, and really just understanding how technology was incorporated into the world at that time period. And of course, a lot of these degrees that you would get from colleges, the curriculum is kind of behind on what's actually going on in the industry.
I imagine
Um,
it's moving so fast.
yeah, definitely. So a lot of it was outdated during the time period, I think. And that's just based on me looking back on it. But it was a lot of starting out. It was a lot of base, just technical courses that I went through that, just basically explain certain things about how the internet worked, because the concentration was internet security. So they did throw some theories on security, which has heavily changed since I took those courses for that class. I mean, for that degree. So it was just based on that time period, and it was actually still behind during that time period. Um, but I mean, that's essentially what I can remember. But let me add this: my associate's degree,
Hmm.
even though it was they kind of got me out my money, um, the classes were more hands on and they were smaller in for my associate's degree. And I think I've said this before on other panels, but I got more out of that than my bachelor's degree, to be honest. Yeah, I understand. I From a bachelor's degree, okay, I got a lot of training on how to write papers in API format. You know what I'm saying? But as far as the real technical, setting up servers, setting up network topologies, breaking down the OSI layer model for how systems talk on the network, I learned majority of that from my associate's degree. So I think I got more of a benefit from that associate's degree from the crappy school, you know what I'm saying, than my bachelor's degree. So
Okay. I want to see. Chris has entered the chat. Hello, Chris. Thank you for coming, as always. So it sounds like you got more into the meat and potatoes of it in the associate's level.
mhm.
So just briefly, just high level, um, were you learning to write code at that point? Were you? I mean, I'm going to ask you about Linux and probably next, but
Mhm.
and also here's another big one. Was there a lot of mathematics in that? Was there?
It was basic mathematics. I took some algebra classes during that associate's degree, which I was pretty good with it in high school, and so that translated real well over into the college courses that I took. But programming, I did take a programming class, and I got more out of, like, that was included in that associate's degree too. I had hands-on training with that, so I was able to. I remember doing some VB code. Just basically creating calculators, just creating different software and just breaking it out and understanding functions, understanding um, just different syntaxes for the coding language for that course that I took. So
Okay, I'm kind of walking that line between trying to. I did this with BGS to share this so more folks might come over. I did this with Brother X because he's a mechanical engineer. So I
mhm.
want to know more.
Yeah.
Um, I'm kind of caught in between what I should ask you because we have these computers. Hit the on button, the electricity starts going through it, but it knows how to do all this stuff. But anyway, let's keep it high level for now. BGS, thank you for sharing this in your vast network. Um, Degrees versus certifications. So are you saying that you could just go get the certification, or you should still get the degree and then you have to keep getting the certifications year after year after year, or however long it takes?
Yeah. So I this is one of the questions I ask to everybody that comes onto my channel for interviews. I always talk about degrees versus certifications. And you can grab um 4 or 5 different people that work the same position in the IT field, and they'll tell you 5 different ways of how to actually get into the IT field. Certifications are important, but degrees will help you depending on what positions you're going for. So, and I'll give you a couple. I'll give you an example. So let's see, networking. A degree in networking will help you if you get into the um, manager positions, but the industry standard is Cisco certifications. That is the industry standard. And so those certifications will actually look better on your resume than having a degree, because you took a vendor specific certification that certifies that you can work on Cisco equipment to manage a network. You understand topology, you understand how to configure these different routers, switches, and stuff that are Cisco specific. That is kind of like an industry standard um, as far as the equipment that a lot of companies in the US use, Cisco equipment for our networking. So that will get you further than just having a degree with, let's say, networking attached to the degree in some form. Because
Okay,
I mean, yeah, you got that specific technical knowledge for working on that specific piece of equipment. That makes sense.
okay. And the reason I wanted you to elaborate on that. Again, I was just talking to my cousin about this on Sunday night, but years ago, I'm also a blogger, and years ago, my
Mhm.
mentor, he said you need to write something on blockchain technology. I don't ask me anything about code, but I think what he wanted to pull out was the fact that Number one, it was on its way at that time, but also there were individuals who I guess were getting certifications in writing that, and they didn't necessarily have to go get a 4-year degree to
Mhm.
be able to make 200K.
Yeah.
Um, so I thought that was interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and in programming, a lot of times you don't need a degree to be a programmer. Yeah, I mean, they just want to be able to know that you know how to write the code. And that's why, depending on the job that you're actually going for in IT, depends on what direction you should go. uh and like what you brought up, coding, um there are some certifications for certain coding languages. Like, I just did a video on the Python programming language, and there are certifications out there for that, to certify that you understand how to write in Python. But as far as like a degree, I mean, it's not specific to a programming language in any way. It's more of a generalized study, and then based on whatever they they put the concentration in, that's what it is. But it's not going to be specifically for a programming language. You have to, even if you get that degree, you have to go get those certifications, because that'll certify that you know how to write in that programming language.
Okay. So it sounds like we're transitioning over to programming languages. I want to
Oh,
thank Aquaseki for the Cash App, much appreciated, and uh, guaranteed to. Thank you for the Cash App. Um, I think he wants your contact info or email. I don't know the best way to get in contact with you. I mean, I mean, obviously I have it, but
mhm. Yeah. I could.
should you just go to your channel or
Yeah, yeah, you can go to my channel, or just keep it techie at gmail.com. So if you got any questions, just contact me on my email. I'm constantly mentoring. I just got off the phone with someone right before, this interview. We were discussing certifications to look into. So I'm always mentoring. So just hit me up, and I'll do my best to help you.
okay? That's keep it techie at gmail.com.
Hmm.
Okay. And if any of you want to donate again, I'll put my information in the chat again. So before we talk about Linux, I have so many questions, but we're gonna keep it tight because you got to come back at some point. The next obvious question is it just smarter to just accumulate your certifications, or should a professional interested in this field go and get the degree, the formal degree?
It
Or does it depend?
Yeah, it all depends on what area you want to go into. If you eventually want to be a director of IT, you're going to need, a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, when it comes to that. So it really all depends on what level you want to get to.
Okay.
um if that kind of, I believe that should explain it a little more. But as far as just breaking into the field, um companies want to know that you know what you're talking about, and that you're not BSing them. Because I've seen people, lie on their resume, say they know X, Y, and Z, or not even lie, but say that they know this stuff, but they don't have a way of proving it. The certification is a way to prove it, because you went through whatever company that offers this certification, and they certify by you passing this exam. You understand how to work with whatever application it is, or whatever software, hardware, whatever it is that you're trying to get into. And that's why I brought up the whole Cisco stuff, because Cisco is real big. If you're getting into networking, Cisco is the route to go. So people get CCNA, CCNP, um, and then more generalized certifications. Though, if we're talking about general IT work, I always push people to CompTIA. So CompTIA has a line of certifications that you can actually take that can put you in the right position depending on what route you want to go into. Because there's also fields such as cybersecurity, which is, you know, the positions that are put in place to prevent cyber attacks, or to just basically protect the network, protect the systems on that network. So CompTIA certifications, you know, are good. They have routes depending on what area you're going into. Like for instance, pen tests plus, I know that's one of them. You might want to take Linux Plus, because Linux is, you know, heavily used in the cybersecurity area. That a lot of the tools are written to run on Linux platforms. Um, and then there are some Windows based tools as well, so you won't get left out with that without knowing Linux. But you know what I'm saying, it is heavily used in cybersecurity. But it's all depending on where you're trying to go once you within the field. And that's why, like, when, and let me say it this way as well. The IT field is kind of like an umbrella. You got all these different fields at the points, you know, all those points on the umbrella. That's a different field. Like the whole database area is one of them as well, which is what I do, you know, to make my money. Database. So and you know, networking, systems administration, you know, you got your help desk, cybersecurity, you know, all those different areas within IT, you know, or you know, under that IT umbrella, so to speak.
Mhm. Okay. I just want to note that I see Professor Black Ops in the chat.
Oh yeah.
I have your email address as well, so I'll be hitting you up at some point from that night you guys were on Bernard's. Let's see. Okay, let's jump into Linux, or is it Linux?
Linux. Yeah, Linux.
Linux. Okay. Let me read through some more. Let me read some of these comments since all the tech guys are over here, or some of them. Engineering Cannabis says, funny. Linux plays a big role in the medical field with the protein manipulation prediction using machine learning and deep learning with, is that Linux again or Linux?
Yeah, he probably
I meant
misspelled
Linux.
it. Yeah.
Okay. Aquatech, says Linux is everywhere. Yep, I can't wait to hear about that. We have some salutes here from Sheed. Winston says, I think a lot of these skills one doesn't need a formal education for. Chris came in. Winston says, an associate of mine with no degree has put his wife, who is a paralegal, through school. Wow, that's good to know. Winston says IT is more about provable skills than degrees or certs. However, certs get you further in infrastructure roles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Shout out to the chat. Almost through here. Engineering Cannabis says blockchain technology is going to be big in the medical arena with medical records and automation.
Yep.
Okay. Riley the fourth says, I'm working with Power BI and R right now. Okay.
Yeah, or it's cool for anybody that's interested in that. That's one of the programming languages used for statistics. So fintech.
Okay. He says that's something I'm definitely interested in. We're almost through. Great programming languages. Yeah, the internship I have right now is about creating data analytics visuals. Wow. Let's see. It's adorable to see Big Discussion 76 Science and Technology geek out like this. Yeah, I'm out of my sandbox here, so you guys are teaching me. It's a good field with a lot of opportunities, but it takes time and discipline. And we're at the bottom here. Chris says, "Hi, I trust is a good one to have as well. High trust." Okay. All right. Um, Linux. Tell us about Linux.
Okay, so basically, Linux is a um, open source, and it derived open source operating system, and it kind of derived from Unix, but it was created. It was basically rewritten by uh, a Finnish guy named Linus Torvalds, and he created this operating system back in the early '90s. And it's basically an open source, and I need to kind of explain what open source is before I move on.
Yeah.
It's basically called they basically put it together, FOSS, so free and open source technology. And basically what that means is it's just software that's created that anyone is free to use. You can also study the code, modify the code, and it's the opposite of, let's say, Microsoft's operating system. You cannot see the source code for a Microsoft operating system, so you don't really know what they're actually doing. But not to go down that rabbit hole, but um, free and open source software is basically software that you can actually look at, modify, and change however you want. You know what I'm saying? So, and that was started. I think I'm trying to remember when Foss actually started. I think it started by Richard Stallman, I believe, is the person that actually came up with the idea of free and open source software, or he came up with the movement that's pushing it, you know, out there, or it's been pushed since then, since he came up with it. And I'm not 100%. I don't want to misspeak and say the wrong thing, but that's based on what I remember, based on documentation and stuff that I've read, or the stories that I've read on where it originated from. So anyway, so Linux is basically free and open source, so anyone can actually see the kernel for Linux. And Linux is essentially is a kernel. It's just the the kernel is the base of the operating system. That's what talks with the hardware and gets everything up and running, in order to build a desktop environment on top of it, in order to you know run applications and all that stuff. The visual part of it, the kernel is the brain of it, and everything else is added to it. So, um,
So before we go
go
on,
ahead.
so kernel. So I know it's what's the word I'm looking for? Is it spelled like popcorn kernel, like KERNEL?
Yeah, KE or NEL. Yes.
But it
Yep.
but it means the brain
Of
of
the operating system.
of the operating system. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, it basically is basically it has modules and all that stuff, and it basically talks to the hardware and translate everything. That's essentially what the kernel is. And then people have taken the kernel, since it's free and open source, anybody can use it, and have created a whole bunch of different operating systems under it. And they call it kind of like a Linux family, or they call them distributions. So that's where you get like Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, as well as Red Hat is one of the industry standard Linux operating systems that are out there, which is used by the government. They use Red Hat. CentOS is kind of like a spinoff, or not really a spinoff. It's a one-to-one comparison to Red Hat for anybody that wants to use it. It's just Red Hat is kind of it's open source, it's free and open source, but the way they make money with Red Hat is they provide support. And so they have government contracts and all that stuff. And they were acquired by, I believe, IBM not that long ago. But anyway, Red Hat, is kind of like that industry standard when it comes to Linux operating systems that are running in businesses, if they have it. But all these different operating systems out there are free to use under different licenses. I think they're all it's all based on the original license of the kernel itself. And um, some people have created applications, and they've put different types of licenses on it. I know it's like a MIT license. It's a couple different types of licenses that you can, put on there. And if anybody's interested in understanding the licensing that they put on a lot of this stuff, you can go to GitHub. They have a breakdown of the type of licenses. And actually I could probably pull that up if you want me to. That might be
Sure.
something I could pull up as well. Let me actually pull that up right fast.
Okay. So in the meantime, I'm
Mhm,
piecing it all together. So Linux is a kernel,
mhm.
right? And it's an open source technology, so people can take it and adapt it to their needs. Yes.
Yes, yes, and it's pretty
Okay.
much like what someone said earlier. It's pretty much used everywhere. It's used in a lot of IoT devices,
Yep.
cores. That software that runs in people's like refrigerators. A lot of times that's using Linux. It's used pretty much everywhere. Oh, and one cool thing, it was actually used. They used a, a a version of Linux for the Mars drone, I believe. That was in the news a while back, and they were saying Linux goes to Mars. That was like the headline of the article that I read. But they used a Linux operating system, and it's also being ran on the International Space Station. They use I think a version of Ubuntu or something like that. um, and that's mainly because it's a very adaptable OS. You can modify it however you want to. With Microsoft, you have to go to Microsoft in order to get them to modify something within their code. So that's why that's considered closed source versus open source. See what I'm
Okay.
saying?
So I think right now, I think you're getting to. Um, I'm wondering what the advantage of this is. Is it because you don't have to go to Microsoft to alter their software? You can adapt it yourself. Is that what's why this is
Exactly.
significant?
Exactly. Yeah, you can actually go and look at the Linux kernel right on GitHub, and you can go in and actually, now you can't make changes to the kernel, unless it's approved. It has to go through an approval process. Like and Linus Torvalds is still, editing the kernel and adding changes to the kernel, and pretty much people all over the world are contributing to the Linux kernel. It's not just him. That's why that's another reason they call it open source, because anyone has the ability to go in and make changes to it if they want to. It just has to go through that approval process, what I'm saying, for it to get added to the new version of the kernel as it's being released. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
they, yeah. So as they go and people contribute to it, and people, changes get accepted to improve the operating system, and they go through their testing phases and all that stuff, they push out the new, Linux kernel. And then all the other like distributions, they'll adapt that kernel to their distribution. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
You're going to show us something, guys. I'm going to open it up when me and Keep It Techie get done. I know some of you guys. I see the chat's pretty active. You guys probably want to come up and lend your expertise as well. I see the master teacher is here. So I'm going to do that when we finish. So where one of my questions was, where is all of this going? But it sounds like from what you said, this is kind of being implemented all over the place, just like blockchain.
Yeah, yeah, it's being incorporated in everything. Well, it's been around for a while. Let me throw out this stat. 60% of the internet, and I'm not sure if that's the right amount currently, but I remember reading an article a while back. It's
Hmm.
basically saying that 60% of the internet is ran using some form of Linux. It could be Linux servers. A lot of web servers, I know for sure, are running Linux operating systems that are serving out websites. When you go to these hosting companies, the back end is a Linux server most of the time, like Bluehost or HostGator. Wherever people go to, host their own websites, the back end is Linux. 90% of the time. It's rare that you get a Windows system. It's because it's scalable. It's and the front end of it, you can like most people use what do they call it? cPanel, which is an application that runs. It basically sits on top of the Linux operating system, so you never have to touch the command line at all, and you can control all your websites from the cPanel. But everything is running on a Linux operating system. It's got folders and all that stuff. You just don't see it. And then also, if you have an Android phone, the kernel of the Android phone is Linux. So yeah, it's pretty much in a lot of aspects of most people alive that, and they're unaware of it. And also Mac OS is it derived from BSD, which is it's kind of along the same lines as Linux. They heavily modified it, and they closed sourced it, or they closed it off to the public. But their operating system is based on Linux as well, or Unix. So it's pretty much everywhere.
Okay. If you had something you wanted to show us, you're welcome to do so. I see more folks coming in. Please hit the like. Please subscribe. I'll throw my Cash App and PayPal in the chat as well. And I will open this up as soon as me and Keep It Techie get finished for a little while.
Okay. Yeah, let me.
So that's fascinating. I mean, we use these technologies every day. Well, someone like me, I use these technologies every day, every hour, every minute, because my phone's always in my hand. And, we don't know what's in it. We don't know how they work. We don't know what's running them. This is fascinating. Let's see. I'm going to read through some of these comments while you're doing that.
Okay, no problem.
Let's see. Engineering Cannabis says, I'll start here, Colonel. That is a big neural network for deep learning applications. Helmet Chili Gaming says, peace, Professor Black Ops. For the people. Let's see. Professor Black Ops says, Cali is the truth. Is that another language?
Yeah, that's another distribution of Linux.
Chris says, Professor Black Ops, have you obtained your Cisco certification or considered it? If not, you should, with your amount of experience. By the way, I love that name, Professor Black Ops.
Oh yeah, that's my man right there.
At Helmet Chili Gaming salute. Aquateki says Rocky Linux is the new successor to CentOS.
Yeah. And I might as well say it, but I actually got contacted by Rocky Linux. They looking at working with me, so they're the ones that's gonna continue the project, the CentOS project. And actually the person that created the CentOS project, he's the one that created Rocky Linux, and I'm actually in talks with working with them as well.
Okay.
Pretty soon.
Reynald Cherry says, yeah, GPL license for Linux. BSD is more open than Linux in terms of licensing. Winston says, a mentor was the person who impressed upon me the importance of familiarizing myself with Linux, if only for having to access a server/terminal. BGS says, those Cal Tech geeks love Linux. Cost in all caps. That must be related to what the advantage of it is. Pastor $40 says, is an open source safe for a closed source? Reynald Cherry says, GPL allows modifying and use, but you gotta pay homage to the original authors. MIT license, no need to do that.
Yeah, it's different, the licenses, they cover different things of how you release the software. That's essentially what I was looking for. I mean, and I was just going to show you the different ones, but it's the GNU GPL license, and then they also have like a Apache license, 2.0 license. It's all based on how you're releasing the software.
Okay.
So
Let's see. Winston says to pass $40. It's about trust. Open source means you can go through the code line by line yourself and figure out what everything is doing.
yeah.
Okay. Um, you know what? Keep it techie. I think those are pretty much all my questions. It
Okay.
sounds like this language. It sounds ubiquitous,
Mm.
and I think yeah, I definitely would like to have you come back and talk about some of these aspects a little more in depth.
Hmm.
We're on a just over an hour now. You cool if
Okay.
I open it up? Some of these guys can come
Oh
up
yeah.
and you guys can. I'll sit and listen to you guys
Okay.
talk
Yeah. No
languages.
problem.
All
No
right,
problem.
guys. I'm gonna throw the link in the chat if some of you guys want to come up and
Yeah,
ask
don't beat me
questions.
up too bad.
Yeah. Okay. BGS, if you're still there. Okay. Let's see if is it gonna go. All right. Let me check the YouTube side. Yeah, the StreamYard link is there. Some of you guys want to come up and say something. In the meantime, on Bernard's channel, I recall you said that there was a Twitter group, or one of you guys said there was a Twitter group, a Black
Hmm.
Tech something or other. You want to talk
Yeah.
about that?
Black Tech Twitter. This is I don't know, this is a great resource. And actually let's cover that right fast before we get deep into other people. I just wanted to say that one thing about the IT field, or getting into the IT field, you need to build up a network. And I know you probably wouldn't think Twitter, but Twitter has one of those hashtags that they use. It's called Black Tech Twitter, and I always bring it up. I try to tell people about it. If you're on Twitter and you're trying to get into IT field, put hashtag Black Tech Twitter, and you'll be amazed with the amount of Black people working in the IT field. That's out here, and just sharing their knowledge and putting their information out there. And that's where I get and I hope I shouldn't be giving away my plug, but that's where I get a lot of my the people that I interview, just from building a network, and and that essentially has helped me throughout my career as well. Like for instance, a guy just posted using that hashtag, basically saying that he just got laid out off of his job due to them downsizing.
Mm-hmm.
He put it out there with the hashtag, and people are currently trying to help this guy find another position uh, within the Black Tech Twitter network, so to speak. So it's a great resource, and that's another reason I talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is very important as well, even though they just got hacked a while back. You know what I'm saying? But it's still a great resource, and you need to build up a network in order to you know just get into the job market and get help, because we all need help.
Facts.
Okay. Professor Black Ops, welcome.
Welcome, man. If Keep It Techie's in the house, I'm coming in the house. How y'all doing tonight?
What's up, Professor
Just
Black Ops?
chilling,
How you
man.
doing?
Just throwing you some softball questions, man. Just taking care of you, making sure you're all right. So,
Okay.
obviously, I do cybersecurity. I'm actually a professor in real life, and Linux to me is probably one of the most secure OSs out there. Microsoft just really trying to get better with security. I think they get hacked because they probably have the most OSs, but I think Linux is the most secure. Like Keep It Techie. I work in federal government, and we can look at the code, and we have our professionals go through those Linux branches and look at that code. Like I said, I work at DoD. It's encryption. FIPS is basically the government looking at that encryption and make sure it's done right. Because a lot of people program their own encryption. Nobody's ever looked at that. They're doing it wrong. That's a hard mathematical problem to solve. So with open source, you can look at the code, you can validate the code, and we can change it if we think something's wrong. We have our own cipher inspection, encryption, and mathematical people on staff. So some of the stuff they change because nation states are trying to hack the United States all the time. You know, our water, electric, a financial system. So you got to make, from a security perspective, you got to make sure we're tight and we're on top of it. So that's why I think Linux is one of the top OSs on the planet. And Kali is basically the cybersecurity version of that. They have a lot of programs for you to test encryption, wireless connections. You can actually hack people straight out of Kali, even on accident. So Linux is, like I said, one of the top OSs. And it's, like you said, it's free, it's cheap. You can learn on it. You can set up games for your kids. It's just used for so many domain specialties out there in the United States.
Yeah, because a Windows server is, I mean, to like, if let's say you're starting a small business, a Windows server, you know, just the application is like close to $1,000 for the license.
Facts.
And you can't modify it. You know what I'm saying? You could just patch it based on, well, when they decide to release patches, all you can do is, you know, patch it, you know, with whatever fixes that applies across the board for everybody that has that version of Windows server. So that's one cool feature about Linux as well. You can update as you need. You can change the kernels if you want to. If you want to use if whatever application you let's say you built a custom application, and you built it specifically to run on a specific kernel, or it works specifically on a specific kernel. You don't have to upgrade that kernel yet. You know what I'm saying? You can run that specific kernel. But nowadays, also they have created Docker, which containers, containerization, which allows people to run containers no matter what their operating system is. You can just push that container over to a Windows system and it'll run just fine, because basically what a container is, or a Docker, is basically everything internalized within a contained application, so to speak. Yeah. And so you can move them around. That's one cool thing about Docker.
Yeah, that and Kubernetes, that's the hot thing. I did a quick video, the 150, my favorite term, STIG checks you need to do to lock down Docker. So I did a video on that. So, about that security life. So yeah, that's the cool thing about Docker, Linux. There's a lot of government security checks to make sure you harden at a certain level so you wouldn't get hacked, right? We hear about hacks getting in every week on the news. Everybody's talking about the metaverse. I just told somebody it's about to get hacked to shit as soon as they get out there. Cybersecurity, Linux is I think the tightest OS out there. And I think that's what people should start with. It's a cool thing to learn. I'm old school. Don't use the GUI. Roll your sleeves up, get that command line on. We got to go old school, fellas, because sometimes you can't get the GUI up if you're on site. You need to get them old school commands in there, man. You don't need to know about 10 of them. We going old school, fellas, going old school.
And one cool thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What's the GUI?
Oh, the user interface, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
You could do point and click inside Linux, so it looks similar to Windows. Chime in, Keep It Techie. I'm old school. I started in '88. It wasn't a GUI. You had to do command line stuff like you were doing DOS. So if you didn't know the command, you was stuck. You couldn't hover over nothing. You have to do your man page and keep rolling. That's how old I am.
That's why the adoption of the Linux operating system didn't take off as much as it could have, because most people looked at it as it's kind of more difficult to use until they start building the full GUIs on top of it, where you don't even really need to touch the command line, what Professor Blackup said. You know what I'm saying? So
but see, I'm old school, but you work in big sites. If I got 1,000 VMs, I got to script it up. It's hard to script out on a GUI. Command lines built for scripting. So I said, I tell people, let's get your big boy pants on. I'm talking about 1,000 VMs because, as you know, we're trying to get the big bag. We ain't doing 1 or 2 systems. I work with 400 VMs every day. So you got to script that up.
Exactly.
Okay. Winston has a question here. I don't know if you guys have the answer to this. He says, the one question I have for the panelists being in the manosphere is where I can find stats about the Black gender divide in tech.
I have that on deck for you if you want it. Hold on. Let me find it.
Keep Tech at men and women? Is that what he's asking?
Oh, he did say gender. I didn't know he said gender.
You could go for the Black people in tech stats, right?
Yeah,
I know those off the top of my head, but he said gender. Winston, can you elaborate on that? Are you asking how many Black percentage of men and a Black percentage of female that's in tech? I don't quite get that. When he said gender, threw me off. Keep taking. I'm like,
yeah.
Well, Professor Black Ops, can you tell us what? I'm assuming you have the participation for the entire.
Keep It Techie was looking it up right there, so I don't want to spout it out. Keep It Techie, did you have it on deck? Keep It Techie.
I got it. I'm just trying to. I mean, he kind of slowed me up though, but yeah.
Go ahead, Keep It Techie.
When you pointed that out, but nah. I mean, it's a lot of
it's low
articles out there.
Yeah, it's low
that break down the stats of Black people in tech. How many Black people in tech? So
Keep It Tech pull up. When last time I looked, it was 2 to 3%. Like I said, that my stats could be old. I worked at a company, a large Fortune 500 insurance company. It was 600 programmers. I only saw 3 Black people, and I ran up to them and hugged them. We had 600, was only 3, and I see that a lot. I work for a big Department of Revenue, IT. We probably have 200 people. We probably got 12.
It's like 7% though. Just so you guys know.
They must have doubled it since I've been around. I'm old though, so maybe they done doubled it. It's all like good work you're doing. Keep It Tech, y'all. Them videos they watching yours, man. We doubling it up, man.
Yeah.
Winston
I'm surprised
says,
it's 7.
I've heard Windows is the most unstable because it literally tries to do the most.
Facts. From my point of view, I'll let Keep It Tech. I think that's true, and that's one thing I do give Windows. They be backwards compatible to like Windows 98, man. You can run programs on Windows that ran 10 years ago, but there's a plus and minus to doing that.
Okay. Hey, just briefly for a novice, because I'm in the federal government.
Okay.
No, I'm not a tech guy, but we see our IT teams working to keep everything moving. Just the concept of patching. What exactly is patching?
You essentially adding changes to the code based on either improvements or security issues. It's basic, and it's put together by whoever you're getting the software from. So if it's Microsoft is going to provide the patches, and it's essentially, just to break it down in the simplest form, it's the Windows updates. That's essentially what patches is. It's just when you're managing a network of computers and servers, you have to go through the process of testing this stuff out before you actually introducing these changes to your network. Because you could break whatever software that's running that's essential to the company. It could be a ERP system, some system that tracks the finances of the company. If you put a patch on now, and that other application that's running on there will get broken, then you in a world of trouble. You know what I'm saying? So essentially, when they say patching, they typically do like patching every Thursday or something like that. Like the IT team will be on standby. They'll test the stuff, and then they'll test it. Like most companies have a test environment and a production environment, and they'll test the patches on the test environment before they introduce it to the production environment. And the test and production is supposed to be mirrored. It's not always mirrored 100% of the time, but it's supposed to be mirrored. So if you run into an issue in the testing environment, you know that you're going to run into that same issue in the production environment. So That's essentially how it works. And
Yeah,
I actually found that. Oh, go ahead.
Then, like Keep It Techie said, from a security side, we do the same test to make sure when you do those patches, like you said, it's features. And a lot of times it's security updates because there's been a vulnerability found or a nation state's been hacking. So once they get that fix out, the patch is to close that vulnerability so people can hack your system. But like Keep It Techie is, and you in the government too, we got some old systems, man, like from 15 years ago. So we got to make sure the patch, like Keep It Techie said, doesn't break our old systems because they're not keeping up with some of the modern designs that these patches are working from. So that's Keep It Techie 100% right. So we test that from the security team's perspective also.
Okay, Winston, I have a link here. I'm going to drop it in the chat.
Yeah, that breaks down the full STEM field. But it also breaks it out, by either technology, and it also covers gender in the article as well. And this all came from Pew Research Center, which is kind of like an independent, or not kind of like it's an independent research organization. And they put together a lot of different research. And this is, I don't know, one of the best resources I found that covers these types of topics, especially when it comes to race, gender, and all that.
Okay, guys, I'm going to ask one more novice question.
There's no novice questions.
I'm embarrassed to ask this.
No.
So you have a language and you have code. Is the language made up of code, or is it? How does that work?
Yeah. So essentially, the code is written in a language. That's how it works. So, and you have different types of languages. I mean, it's just like, English, Spanish, all that stuff. You just basically writing the code using a language in a different format depending on what language you're using. So, and it's not really a different format, it's really different syntax. And so, like, for instance, Python, let's say you want to introduce a loop or something like that within your code. It's a specific way you have to write the loop, but the concept is the same across the board, no matter what language you're writing in. They all have a loop function. You just have to understand how to write it in that specific language. And then when someone says code, they're just essentially talking about some form of a language written out to handle a specific task or whatever.
Gotcha.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and I agree. Like you said, the language you program it, then a lot of times it's compiled or interpreted in the code and binary so the computer can understand it. The language actually is an abstraction of, because really when you take code, you're going to compile it, right? When you compile it, it's going to end up in 1001, but nobody can program in binary, right? So you put an abstraction over that, and then that abstraction is like Keep It Techie is that language, and certain languages are used for certain things like COBOL and mainframes more used for financials and running it. Java, I've seen a lot of people talking about R's in there for artificial intelligence and data analytics, right? So certain languages specialize in certain domains you want to do, and they're made specifically for certain domains.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, I'm going to read through some of these comments. We'll go for another 10 minutes, guys, and we'll shut things down.
Okay.
Let's see. Floyd said, delete tree scared me away from Linux years ago, LOL.
Yeah.
So you guys know what that means?
Yeah, it's a command you can run, and you could basically what a tree is basically all the folders underneath one folder. So that's considered a tree if you look at it. The way it is shown like in a diagram. When you look at folders, you basically got one folder right here, and then underneath it you got the line, and you got a folder underneath it. And if you keep going down, it's considered a tree of folders and files and directories. And if you run delete tree in a specific area on the Linux operating system, and if you have root access, you could delete system files and it will just basically crash the system.
I've seen that done before in real life.
Yeah.
You can't. I seen guys start sweating because, or they did RM/R for recursive and it started recursive. So now, shout out to him. I seen people get fired for that.
Yeah. You
That is
essentially
true.
get fired.
Okay. Oh, GUI,
Right.
graphic user interface.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Don't use the GUI. Be old school. Roll your sleeves up. Don't be lazy.
So, Professor Black Ops, what does that mean?
Like we talked about GUI from Windows standpoint is you can point and click, and it looks more like Windows. When you do Linux with no GUI, have you done DOS? Have you ever done DOS? I'm not saying you old as me, but DOS
no.
was
It was funny when Keep It Techie was talking about his first home computer. I was thinking, okay, my first home computer,
right,
had the old archaic graphics and
right.
you know.
But a lot of times those interfaces, you actually had to go to command line and type stuff. Like Quick Basic, when you did that, you had to type, right? There was no GUI. You had to know the commands. That's kind of what Linux is. You got to know the commands. There's no pointer. There's no click to go to a directory. You got a CD to delete stuff, to move around or combine a file with VI. You just have to know those commands because there's no GUI. Because usually on a Linux world, because I'm old, is we doing commands because we doing, like I said, 400 or 500 systems, or we running our programs to reach out to other systems. So you usually don't use a GUI to do that. Right? He's in the command line right there. He's showing it.
Okay.
So
what is this?
That's the Linux command line. Go ahead, Keep It Techie.
Yeah. So this essentially is the Linux command line, and yeah, I have a GUI, and you can't see it, but because I'm only sharing the terminal, but that's essentially what a system used to look like before. And if you don't know what you're doing, you really can't navigate. You can't do anything in the system. But it's a whole bunch of commands that you have to type in. Like for instance, right now I'm in my home directory, which is designated by the tilde, so to speak. But I can let me go to a test directory. But CD is basically change directory, so I could change to a specific directory. So let's go. I think I got a test directory. So test remove. That's one. So I'll just ls this directory. That's another command that you can use to list out the files within that directory. And then let's see, I'm trying to think of something else to do. Like if I wanted to remove one of these files, then there's a command called rm, which removes a specific file. And I could delete one of these files in here because I don't have it for anything. And if I ls again, you'll see that file is actually gone. So I mean, it's essentially a whole bunch of commands that allows you to navigate the system a whole lot quicker. And then when you get into understanding it, you can then write bash scripts, which can do a lot of this stuff in a very fast way. And essentially with Linux, you can do things a whole lot faster. Like for instance, with a Microsoft computer, if you want to, most people, when they copy and paste a whole bunch of files, you just hit Control A, and then Control C, and then paste it to wherever you're trying to paste it to. And let's say it's a couple gigabytes of files. Mm-hmm. Well, with Windows, you have to take into account the graphical port of it. You know how it pops up with the little box that shows you the percentage of how much done. That's using resources on your system. With Linux, a lot of this stuff is done. It's almost like in the background because nothing is barely any resources being used up to push a lot of files around or move things around. It's just a whole lot easier and cleaner to use. The processing is a whole lot faster
than Microsoft
Windows or Mac OS too, because those systems are made to be user friendly. So anybody can use it, which I mean, it makes sense. That's essentially what you want. You want people to use the operating system, you know what I'm saying? But Linux is a whole lot better once you understand it, as far as saving processes, as well as running applications via the command line. And like, you can gather a whole lot more information. Just to show you guys, you can see all the what do you call them?
I call them
The
processors.
processors.
Yeah.
Well, those are the threads. 16 threads.
The
So
pad.
yeah, and memory usage. You could do a whole lot within the command line itself. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It's
and from a
just
programming standpoint, I'm gonna jump in. Is when I worked at DoD, I was paying retiree soldiers. We were moving 4 billion records every night. We couldn't do that on Linux with the threading and the processing power. We were using Linux. We were running an Oracle database. You really can't run Oracle on a Windows box because of the threading and how Java operates. Like I said, that's getting really deep down into internals of an operating system. When you move that many files, it's super hard to do that on a Windows box. Over the last 3 or 4 years, processors got better, so it's a little easier. But you got to remember, I've been in the game for 30 years, and I promise you, in the 90s, you definitely couldn't do it. 2000, you were struggling. I think Windows, because processors are better, but I do big systems and big type movement. Like I said, we were moving a billion files every night, and it's got to get to a bank at a certain time. So you got to move a billion records in 4 hours. So your window's not very big. So you need as much horsepower, most processing power. And I think Linux, from that standpoint, for me, has always been much better.
And another reason I push Linux, just to throw this out there, Dr. Dornborough, and this will be kind of like my last thing. I know we only got like 5 minutes or so, but one reason I push it is because you can recycle old hardware. Um, there's a lot of waste that happens with laptops. If the hard drive still works, the the processor still works in it, you can recycle those systems by putting a Linux operating system on it. You know how Windows, it'll get very sluggish over time. You can wipe it or back up your data, wipe it, throw a Linux operating system on it, and or whatever distribution you want, and it'll run a whole lot better like a brand new computer, pretty much. And I've done this for a lot of family members and just different people, helping them restore older computers. So if you're into, preventing e-waste, which is what they call it, you can install a Linux operating system and kind of renew that system using one of those, operating systems.
So in other words, it's useful in terms of salvaging an older computer.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
it uses less resources than
Yep.
Windows. Then on top of that, I work with a lot of top consultants. I don't do it a lot, but Mac actually is a stripped down version of Linux, and they can run multiple VMs on Linux. I've seen guys run 10 virtual machines on a Linux machines, meaning on that machines, one VM would be Windows, one VM could be Red Hat, one VM could be Ubuntu. The reason why you want multiple VMs as a security person is when you go on site to do forensic, if somebody's hacked, you want to have the same VM that your customer has. So they can run multiple OSs on one Linux boxes on virtual machines, which is basically taking a Linux and splitting it up. And each one of those is running kind of individually, and you can boot them up with a different OS.
Okay,
Yep.
so guys, so we'll end on this, and you could be as in depth as you want or as high level as you want. So it sounds like to me the advantage of Linux versus the Microsoft Windows is with the Linux is it's more efficient, but it sounds more specialized. It sounds like everyone can play with the Microsoft Windows, but the Linux is a little more specialized. Go ahead.
Well, I would say Windows is not. Um, I mean, it is user friendly, and the reason it is because we've been using that all our life. A lot of us, since computers start coming out, we've been using Windows. So the start menu is always in the same place. Yeah, they changing it up for Windows 11 a little bit. But the start menu, has always been in the same place. You know how to get to the control panel. Most people have been doing this for years. You know what I'm saying? And Linux has just always been in the background. Or, on in like some server room that most people don't have access to. And so that's in my opinion why a lot of people are afraid to actually touch it or get into it, because of they've been using Windows all their life. You know what I'm saying? Windows is what they know and what they were introduced to. It's similar to how some people that have gotten a Mac computer that's their first computer. That's the only operating system they've used. You know, it's essentially the same thing. If you put a Windows computer in front of them, they'll be like, what's going on? Where's my, control button, or what's that key? The super key. Where's my super key? You know what I'm saying? It's just essentially, it's just not being used and not being marketed as an alternative to the Windows operating system that most people get. I mean, if you think about it, when you go into the store, how many laptops you see with either Mac or Windows on it? It's pretty much all of them. You know, you're not going to see it, even though you can purchase a laptop with Linux installed on it from the store. It's just that it's not put out there in front of you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know.
But
That's my explanation.
would you
Go
still be
ahead.
able to run Microsoft Word and Excel or Linux? You don't use it for that stuff.
Well, no. You can pretty much do everything you can do on a Windows operating system. Someone has created, and that's one reason I love the free and open source community, so to speak. Someone has took the time to build projects or create projects centered around getting people transition from Windows to Linux. Like, for instance, Open Office, that's an alternative, and the crazy part about it, it's a free alternative that can be used on Windows as well. So if you don't want to pay for Microsoft Word or Microsoft Office, you can install LibreOffice or Open Office, and they're free, 100% free. They're free in the open source software. You don't have to pay for it, and you can see the code behind it. And for instance, a lot of people use Photoshop to do their editing. Photoshop costs money. I know you got to pay. I think they changed it up where it's subscription based now, but they have an alternative for Photoshop on the open source platform called GIMP for free. Anybody can use it. It's called GNU Image Multi-Processor or something like that. But it's essentially the exact same thing. You can do pretty much the same photo editing in GIMP for free. Video editing, and that's the thing, I forgot to say this, but I do everything for my YouTube channel on my Linux operating system using the same type of tools that you would use on a Windows system. All my editing, all my thumbnails, everything is done on my Linux operating system that I use here at the house. So it's one. I mean, it might be slightly different. The menu may look a little different, or and obviously the icons are different because that stuff is copyrighted by Microsoft or whatever company, Adobe, whatever. So it has a different image and a different name, but it's essentially the same application, but it's free.
Thanks.
Okay. Professor Black Ops, do you have anything else you want to?
Oh yeah, but mine's gonna be super short compared to Keep It Techie. I believe, because I work on big systems, and most big systems are done on Linux and Unix on the back end. We're always talking about making money. So if you're gonna make money, you're gonna do big systems. Most of that stuff's done on Linux, Unix, Sun, not as much. But so you need to learn those skills because, like I said, Oracle went on Linux, open database runs on Linux. So all the big stuff for me runs on Linux. So that's why I master that, because I'm trying to do big systems and make big money. So I try to keep it simple. I'm chunky. I like to eat well. So I do big systems to make big money. And most of that stuff's done on Linux.
Okay. Yeah. And lastly, I appreciate it again, Dr. Dunbar, for allowing me on your platform and coming through and just trying to put good information out there for people to look into. It ain't all about Linux. I want to see, people that, grew up like me, or, just people from my community succeed and be successful. So that's why I get on here and talk about this stuff. And just to show that there is someone out there that look like you or grew up how you grew up, that is in this field and being very successful. And I want to just put it in front of you as much as I can.
And I'm here to support Keep It Techie.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we have to do this again. And Professor Black Ops, I'll be sending you an email soon so we can talk some more about what you do.
Anytime, any place. ProfessorBlackOps@gmail.com, or just go on my About panel. You'll see my email.
Okay, Professor Black Ops. All right.
Appreciate it, fellas.
All right, I'm gonna power through some of these comments. Keep it techie. You can hang, or you can bounce. I'm gonna read through some of these comments, and I'll close out.
Okay.
I'm hanging.
Okay. It says also you can put Linux on an older machine and actually make it usable. Low system requirements. Let's see. This one says yes, encryption algorithms have to be publicly vetted to be worth their salt.
100%. I think we get lulled into a sense of safety.
Let's see, microservices.
Yes.
Okay, I already read this one. Let's see.
Yeah, Dr. Dunbar, I do have to run though. I appreciate it.
Okay,
again,
keep it techie.
Yeah,
right.
And shout out to you, Professor Black Ops, as well. Thanks for coming through as well.
All
Appreciate
right,
it.
Talk to you later, man.
Okay.
Talk to you. Oh, sorry.
I'm gonna send you an email.
Oh, okay.
Afterwards.
Okay. All right, no problem.
Winston said I asked because a nonprofit is favoring Black women over Black men. Okay, I know what he's talking about.
I'm trying to stay away from the gender war, doctor. I'm gonna let you handle that.
Stay away from the
but that is correct. Yes.
Stan says, brethren, keep up the good discussions. Patch Tuesday, I think for us in my office, it's Monday.
Yeah, most people. Well, Microsoft puts them out on Tuesday. That's why people. Okay. But you can apply them when you want. But Microsoft puts them out on Tuesday.
Double minority status for the women. Okay. Okay. Yeah. The CEO.
All right, Winston. I'm gonna let you handle that one, man.
Winston says, thank you so much. Shonda, hello, Shonda says, Dr. Dunbar, Keep It Techie, and Professor Black Ops, great discussion, and thank you, brothers, for representing tech and STEM so well. Kudos. Thank you for stopping through, Shonda. Winston says, Shonda H, good evening. Some folks don't think tech is for them based on societal imagery. Yep, that's why we're here.
Yeah, just real quick. Yeah, we got to change that narrative. It's always the nerd. Even if you look on TV, John Sally 6'9" on Cyber, he's got the pocket protector with the thick glasses. So shout out. We all know I eat very well, and there's a ton of people making six figures in tech.
Yep.
Shout out to Helmet. That's one of my guys. Shout out to him.
Usually thinking tech only means Indian white male. Yep, that's right. Learn the file system directory first. Stan said.
Facts. Yes.
I have fond memories of DOS.
Me too.
Command line is way faster than point and click.
I'm starting to like Aqua Techie, man. He talking my language.
Shonda says, Winston, evening, brother. That was a great question you raised about the gender gap amongst Blacks in tech.
Thanks.
Engineering Cannabis says Linux free operating system that's comparable with lots of apps and software.
Doctor, real quick, engineering, he's the Manosphere AI machine learning and artificial intelligence guy. That's his specialty. So if you want to loop him in, he's definitely excellent in there. And he's always on panels and breaking it down. That's his specialty. I'll let him elaborate on that as he's doing it. I love Lenny. So yeah.
Okay, Engineering Cannabis. We need to get into contact. That's my email address there. I'm also on Twitter, but we need to get in contact. So let's get in contact. Let's see. Winston says, the thing about data science is we want to draw appropriate conclusions from our data and not just make assumptions. Metadata, learn Bash, Vim, and Linux directory system, and you are ready to go.
Facts. I'm old. I'm BI before the M, but that is correct. I'm actually Corn Shell, which is pre-Bash. So yes, all that's true. Yes.
Those are all languages?
all built-in applications to make it run on Linux. Like VI is actually command line word processing. So if you want to type a script, you VI with the name that opens up and you type your commands in there and save it. Bash is it's a shell, so you can actually run it to automate things. So when you log in, you can say, okay, you're logging in, set up all these variables, take them to this home directory, run these back files in the back, and that's what Bash does. So those are different programs to make your Linux run better, smoother.
Let's see. Vim is challenging, but I hope to master
Winston,
it.
just do it. I just don't wait. Just start using it. Don't give up. Savage, he's the programmer in the Manosphere. I think he does C# and I forgot, but yeah, he's one of the programmers in the Manosphere. So we coordinate too if you want to reach out.
Okay, yeah, Savage scientist development.
Yeah, development. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe Black Ops. You can point me to these guys, but that's my email address right there.
Do me a favor. I think you said you're gonna reach out to me. Then I'll put all their channels and stuff in the email when you reach out to me.
Okay, we'll do.
I'll put you in touch with all those guys.
Okay, just a few more, and then we're done. I need to step up my Vim game.
Facts.
Correct. Do not throw away those old computers.
Facts.
How about that? ProMax is a Linux distro made for virtualization and containerization.
Facts.
Cut my teeth on Windows 3.1.
I was there.
Yep, that's true. Even system administrators only know Windows crap.
Facts.
DOS 6.2, my first time using a computer.
Facts. I'm older than all of them, though.
Yeah, Windows was created to dumb it down. In a sense, no disrespect.
I like how people say no disrespect when they disrespect you. Nah, I'm joking. All good.
Hey, us non-IT people, we don't know the difference.
Man.
GIMP,
facts.
You guys are great, and you know what you're talking about.
Appreciate it, Stan.
This was a great discussion. I will hit it in the replay. Appreciate that. Yeah. Professor Black Ops, cybersecurity for the people. My goal is to put the community first, not just one gender.
Facts. That's facts. And I agree with you 100%. I just worry that young black men are getting left behind because, like you said, Google and Goldman, they put all that money. So I'll just be worried about young men. We already behind. They're the most educated. We need little resources, but I'm gonna let the doctor drive that. That's more up his alley. He's got the PhD. I believe that for him. Shout out to Bash. Yeah, I'm Corn Shell.
Again, Shell.
Yeah.
Tam, what is going on? Hey, Tam, we're just finishing up here.
How you doing, Tam?
Hello there, Tam. Okay, so you guys know her.
Yeah, Wimix for Linux. If you look at their channels, when you send it to me, I'll put the top 10 people I kind of follow and hang out with, so I can. You can go check out their channels. But there's a lot of great content out here with some people just on another level. I was on some young guy and I had to get on him, and he said $100,000 wasn't any money. I'm like, dude, only 8% of black dudes make 100,000. I need you to retract that. I understand looking at the 100 and keep going, but you cannot say $100,000 no money. I'm an elder. I'm gonna have to get on you, young man. But
yeah.
But a shout out to him. I know what he was doing.
All right. Well, Professor Black Ops, I will reach out to you shortly. Thank you for stopping through.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, like you say, summon me if you need me, and wherever Keep It Techie go, I usually go. Great show. I appreciate you having me.
Sounds good. All right, everyone. I'm gonna close this stream out. I wanted to, like I said, I want to turn this channel. My background is in the biomedical sciences, pharmacology, toxicology, but I want to build this channel out and turn it into a bit of a STEM hub. So I want to have more of the tech guys come over and talk about things like Linux and what open source technology is, because I don't know the difference. I know proteins, I know viruses and medications and drugs, but I don't know anything about the things you guys know about. So look for more of this. So guys, enjoy the rest of your Thursday night. If you're watching on the playback, and you want to, well, first of all, hit the like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to throw something in the tip jar, my PayPal and my Cash App will be below this stream. I don't have a super chat over here right now because I'm trying to build the watch hours up. Keep It Techie says, peace, guys. Thanks again, Dr. Dunbar. Yep, we're going to do this again. And I'm going to send you an email So yep, that's right. I mentioned this at the beginning. The A has been put in there. So now we're transitioning from STEM to STEAM. So okay. All right, guys. Enjoy the rest of your night. Be safe. And as always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Take care, and I'll talk to you the next time. Bye-bye.